dear Uncle Pete, and the great man that we are remembering here today, lived a good life filled with all he loved. All his family, his friends and his dogs, his football and his gardening and fishing. It was also a life full of adventures. It all began on the 13th of September 1944, when he was born at home, number 1 Council Houses, Brockton. He was the 4th and youngest child of Alice and Bob Wall, and brother to Marion, Ivy and Ernie. Bob Wall had worked for the Hampton Hall estate before the family moved to Oak Hill, Aston Rogers, in 1950. A small holding where they had cows and lots of chickens. Peter and his siblings grew up in this hard-working and loving and supportive family. And it is probably from these early childhood days that his love of animals and nature began. They attended evensong in this church every Sunday, and Bob was a church warden. Peter attended Wortham Church of England Primary School from 1949 to January 1958. Amongst his classmates was a certain Miss Kathleen Williams from the garage Wortham, who would, of course, in a few years' time, become such a constant, loving presence in his life. Peter moved on to Pontesbury Secondary Modern until June 1960. He had always loved football and would often play on the sports field here in Wortham, kicking a rag around with his friends. The gym master at Pontesbury School recognised Peter's emerging talent for the game. He was often in detention from English for spending too much time playing football, and he often played as captain for the school team. He also represented all Shropshire schoolboys, and it was whilst he was playing for them that Peter was spotted by the Shrewsbury Town Scouts. However, Alice insisted he should have a proper career, so Peter spent 9 months as a trainee electrician for Eden and Rogers in Monkmore, before persuading his parents that football would be a good move for him, and he signed for Shrewsbury Town as an apprentice professional, aged 17, in September 1961. September 61 marked another important event in Peter's life, as, after walking her home a few times from Wortham Youth Club, he started going out with Kathleen, who was aged 16. He would cycle to Wortham from Aston Rogers and park his bike against the railings of the White Horse before calling at the garage for Kath. He was soon considered part of the family. He signed a full professional contract for the town when he was 18 and played regularly for the first team under manager Arthur Rowley. One of the highlights of his time at the Meadow was playing at Millwall in the 5th round of the FA Cup on the 30th of January 1965. My mum Mary, Kath's sister, went along with Kath and many other family members to show their support for this and many other games. Town beat Millwall 2-1, but sadly lost at Leeds United in the 6th round. Peter found Arthur Rowley a difficult manager and was let go from Shrewsbury after 4 years and signed for local rivals Wrexham in November 1965. After just a month, a new manager was appointed at Wrexham, Jack Rowley, brother of Arthur. Peter said he'd gone from the frying pan into the fire, but instead he got on very well with Jack, who said he couldn't understand what his brother was doing, letting Peter leave Shrewsbury, and that he would do everything he could to help his career. Peter and Kath got engaged in the garage in the kitchen at the garage on the 24th of April 1966, my grandparents and Dennis Williams' 25th wedding anniversary. Soon after, at a practice match at Wrexham, at the start of the 1966-67 season, Liverpool Football Club's legendary manager Bill Shankly and assistant Bob Paisley or watching fellow Shropshire schoolboy Stuart Mason. But it was another player that really caught Shankly's eye with his abilities as a defender, and he said to the Wrexham management that he would sign Mason, but only if he signed Peter Walls as well. And so it was that on the 6th of October 1966, aged 22, Peter was told he was becoming a Liverpool player. Kath first heard this exciting news on the 6:30 sports news on the radio. No mobile phones back then. Peter was able to phone her about 8 p.m. Peter became part of a Liverpool squad which included such great names as Ian St John, Roger Hunt, Ronnie Yates, Ray Clements, Ian Callahan, Aaron Evans, and of course his great pal Emlyn Hughes, whom he shared digs with at Mr. and Mrs. Firth's. Peter, or Maxie as he was called after the comedian Maxwell, played a total of 42 first-team league games over the next 3.5 years. Playing in front of 50,000 fans at Anfield, what a wonderful time. Always supported by Kath, his parents and other family members, they made the trip to Liverpool many times to cheer him on. There were many celebratory drinks with friends and family back in Shropshire. The Lion in Westbury and the Cock Brockton were favourite haunts. Bill Shankly was another very strong character as a manager, and after a defeat to Watford in the FA Cup, Peter found himself playing in the reserves, and after bravely questioning Shankly's decision, he was reluctantly asked for a transfer. But it is a sign of how well he was thought of at Anfield that in 1985, Dad took Martin and myself there, and just by saying that Martin was Peter's son, and we were also related, we were given all-access permission at Anfield, going in the dressing room, down the tunnel, in the stands, and onto the pitch, with me in goal, and Martin taking a pretend penalty at the Kop end. Amazing. His transfer request from Liverpool was accepted, and in May 1970, Peter made the move to Crystal Palace. Peter and Kath married in this church on the 8th of August 1970, and then moved to London, living first in an apartment in Shortlands, before buying a house in Bromley. Family life soon began in London with the arrival of Peter and Kath's adored children. Samantha was born in 1971 and Martin in 1973. Peter spent a total of 8 years at Palace with both Malcolm Allison and Terry Venables as his managers. In May 1971, Peter was chosen to represent England on a summer tour to Australia. He played over 200 games for Palace, despite suffering a broken leg against Liverpool in a bad tackle with ex-teammate Tommy Smith, not long after being selected for another England squad. He also had a brief battle with hepatitis in 1974. He was made captain by Terry Venables and was instrumental in Palace reaching the FA Cup semi-final in April 1976. The side lost, unfortunately, 2-1 to Southampton, so didn't make it to Wembley, but it was a huge achievement for the then third division side. During those years in London, there were frequent trips back up to Shropshire to visit all the family. We spent Christmas in 1976 and 77 in Bromley. I can remember the excitement of having the extra long football socks to put out for Father Christmas. We all spent a lot of time back in Worthing in early 1977 after my grandfather's death and the garage was sold. It was around this time that Peter was approached by John Sewell, former Palace captain, who wanted him to join him in America. What an opportunity! And Peter flew to Missouri to join the St. Louis Soccer Stars in May 1977. Kath and the children joined him for a couple of months before they all came home in August 77. Despite being offered coaching roles in England, especially from Terry Venables, the lure of America was too great, and the family moved to California on the 28th of April 1978 for Peter to join the California Surf at the Anaheim Stadium on a 2-year contract. America was in fact their home for the next 24 years. He was captain and assistant coach before becoming head coach at the Surf at the age of 33, the youngest in the North American Soccer League, and travelled throughout the States, playing against such great names as Georgie Best, Franz Beckenbauer, Johan Cruyff and Pelé, whom he rated as the best player he played against. After the Surf, he became head coach of the Felix Inferno, before going back to LA in 1982 to become the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, where he stayed successfully for 5 years. This was such a great time, with lots of family and friends spending holidays with them, enjoying the sunshine and the swimming pool, Disneyland, the Pacific Ocean and palm trees. They also travelled back to England for family weddings and funerals, and we were in regular contact always. In 1985, Peter was awarded the prestigious title of Coach of the Year for the All-America Major Indoor Soccer League. What a great achievement for such a humble boy from Shropshire. He left the Lasers in 1987 after a change in management, and then proceeded to have a change of career, setting up his own mortgage company with a friend. Kath was always desperate to return to England, and she and Peter did so on St David's Day 2002. We met them with Samantha at Heathrow Airport, waving our Union Jacks. They set up home in Oswestry to be near my mum Mary, who was overjoyed, as we all were, at their return. Peter soon threw himself into Oswestry life and worked at the J.T. Hughes Honda dealership until 2012. He was a very popular and successful salesman there and got to know so many people. He also indulged his love of gardening, taking great pride in his allotment and growing many different vegetables, fruit and flowers. He won many awards, including Best Potatoes on more than one occasion. Peter also won awards in the Oswestry in Bloom competition for 5 years in a row for his beautiful floral displays in their front garden. Very well deserved. The joy of being back in England was only enhanced with the arrival of Peter and Kath's much longed for grandson Ryan, who was born in May 2003. Peter thought the world of him and was a very proud and devoted granddad, always there to offer guidance, support and encouragement to Ryan. Dogs were such an important part of Peter's life, and over the years, Casey, Spencer, Brandy, Tigger, Britty, Pippin and Rusty could not have had a more loving home and doting dad. Uncle Pete was such a great storyteller, and did he have some stories to tell. All the adventures on many fishing trips with Martin, family boating trips, and trips to Vegas with the car breaking down on the way. He would recount all these stories so well, we would laugh non-stop. Even on his 80th birthday, just a few weeks before he died, he came to visit me and Dad with Martin, and we ended up laughing again, reminiscing at some of his escapades. Uncle Pete was also a real card shark, and we played many rounds at Samantha's kitchen table. He always seemed to know exactly what cards I had in my hand. Peter has now finally gone full circle and come back home as we lay him to rest in Worthing Churchyard, alongside many of his family. His unexpected passing on the 30th of October has left us all devastated. In ending, I want to thank you, Uncle Pete, on behalf of us all, your family and friends, for the wonderful memories we have of many happy and good times spent together. For all the laughs, for the help, advice and support support you gave and the love and care you showed us all. As we leave the church today, we'll hear the crowd at Anfield singing their famous anthem, as Peter heard it many times on the pitch, with the cop swaying behind him. We will all miss you so much. Rest in peace, Uncle Pete. You'll never walk alone.